Good morning, everyone. We'll get started here in just a couple minutes. Appreciate you spending a few minutes with us. So if this is your first time, really appreciate you joining us today. And we're going to go ahead and get started. So the purpose of today is as we're closing out 2023 and getting into 2024, we want to be talking about what's our plan. Because remember, without a plan, it's like doing one of these and not knowing as to where it is that we're going. And also, what is the actual budget that we should be allocating towards that of our marketing? With that said, speaking of being interactive, this is a Slido poll. Keep in mind that your answers are going to be anonymous, so I won't know and no one else will know. I'll actually engage with this as well. But if you wouldn't mind pulling up your phone and using this QR code to engage with this question. And the question is, have we all hit our revenue goals for 2023? And we're trying to, and the short answer is it a no? Is it a yes? Is it we've exceeded them? The big thing here is this is actual real life data that will be helpful. We'll actually have some stats that we'll be talking about here. And I love the fact that we have diverse answers here in terms of we have some no, we have some yes, and we have some that have exceeded them. So that's great. The whole point here is if we can take even just one or two nuggets, because remember, as I'm looking at my door here, remember tiny hinges swing big doors. I'm going to go ahead and go to the next active poll question as well, really quickly. And the purpose of this question is I'd like to just so that not just myself, but others will also know as to our customers, like our customers, both residential, commercial, or I happen to be a vendor, because I do see a few groups here that are on the vendor, manufacturer, and service provider front. So if we wouldn't mind quickly interjecting with that as well, and it seems like most of us are going to be doing both. So this actually is really helpful. I appreciate the feedback. We'll give this just another second. We're going to get into the meat of today's poll. So in terms of what's the plan for today's session, part of the step one, or what we're going to be discussing, is setting clear goals and targets for the year. What is our, without goals and without targets, how do we know where it is that we're going? We want to make sure that we're, number one, identifying, but we're realigning that of our KPIs. And if you're not familiar with a KPI, it's a key performance indicator. So in other words, it's the data and the metrics that we need to be tracking, and that will help us so that we understand how it is that we achieve what our goals and our objectives are, how we achieve those particular outcomes. We're going to talk about mapping out our actual plan for accomplishment, specifically talking about budget, channel, and what some of the important trends are as we close out 2023 and get into 2024. And the whole point here, like, what are we all about? Like, what is our goal for doing this? Our goal for doing this is we want to make sure that we're setting ourselves up for 2024 and beyond to be our absolute best. Before we get too deep into things, many of you I know, but if for some of you that are either watching this live or will be watching this on demand, because by the way, this is being recorded. I know I get that question asked. So if you'd like to share this with a colleague, or if you're watching this, after the fact, you'll be able to watch this as we're recording this. For those of you that don't know me, I'm not going to read off all these particular groups, but I happen to have the honor and distinct privilege of speaking at many of our industry's biggest events. And most of this is about marketing, but also it's all about trends and technology and things in this regard. You take into consideration here, it's been since, gosh, what are we coming into 2024? My goodness, it's going to be almost our 10-year anniversary. So our very first Marketing Mad Men article, and by the way, this is my business partner, Alex, that's upside down. That's a funny story that we can discuss over cocktails when we see you at a recent event, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about the background behind this. But we've been writing our Marketing Mad Men column since January of 2014. If we are not connected on LinkedIn, I would love to connect with you on LinkedIn so that we can keep this conversation going. So in terms of our group, we only work with security companies. So we're a marketing agency. We only work with security companies. Like that of the events that we just referenced, we also happen to be very proud members of many of our industry's biggest associations. And we're not just paid members, we actively participate, whether it's SIA, ESA, TMA, and also I feel like we're missing a very important one, CAA, California Alarm Association here. So we'll make sure that that's my mistake for not including that. But California Alarm Association, as well as the Alarm Association of Florida. And really, I'm not going to get super long-winded because this is not about us. This is about you in terms of today. But for the groups that we work with, we put you in that of the current level of success because we don't work with direct competing groups because we data share and we data pool. So I'm not going to get too much detail into that, but if you have any questions about working with us, a little later in the session, we'll have a QR code. You can visit our website at sd.marketing. There is no .com at the end. We'd love to talk with you to see as to how we can analyze your marketing and see as to how we can help or whether it makes sense or what have you. But with that said, let's get into the meat of today's discussion. And first things first, it is incredibly important for us to set clear goals. It's like as we close out 2023 and we're reflecting over these last couple of years and over these last 11 or 12 months, what did we accomplish? I'm not going to go back, but it was a mixed bag. Some of us didn't hit our goals. Some of us hit our goals and some of us exceeded them. And regardless as to where it is that we are on that matrix, the key here is how do we make 2024 even better and really almost put ourselves in a position to almost like break things. So, with that said, it's all about setting clear goals. And here's the thing, like, what are your goals for 2024? And I'd really like for you to think about that. And I know, maybe perhaps I didn't ask this out of the gate for you to put some thought around this, but think about like, what are your goals for 2024? And ultimately, what are you doing to achieve that? I'd like to think that one of the things that you're doing is taking time out of your day, whether you're watching this live or on demand, to be thinking about this so that ultimately we're making 2024 our best. And I like to start off with a quick analogy here. And you take into consideration here on this screen, you can see that of this lonely sailboat. And I won't say that this water is crystal glass clear. There's a little bit of wind, but there's not a ton of wind. And as this sailboat is sailing, if there isn't a plan, if there isn't this ongoing long gust of wind, this sailboat's going to eventually get to where it needs to go, but it may not get there in the amount of time or in that target time that you're looking for. Now, contrast that with ultimately having clear goals. And as part of having clear goals, imagine that of having your entire team, we're all in alignment. We know exactly what our numbers are, what our KPRs, how we've closed out 2023, what we're looking to achieve in 2024. And by the way, not all of these goals have to be revenue specific, because keep in mind, I had joked but wasn't joking about breaking things, so to speak, out of the gate. But the key here is, how do we develop systems? How do we put ourselves in a position so that we're not just growing at 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5%? How do we get into double digits? How do we double our revenue? Like, let's think big. How do we really put ourselves in a position? And then the key here is, as we have the right team in place, as we have clear goals, that's as if we're having wind in our sails. And what that's going to do is that's going to allow us to get to where it is that we're looking to get to in a much better, much more quickly, much more efficiently, excuse me. And our goal here is, like, as we're having this discussion 12 months from now, for what are our goals for our marketing plan for 2025 and beyond, I would like to see a higher number in terms of we've exceeded our goals and things in that regard. So I mentioned the fact that today's going to be interactive, and I'd like to give a very special thanks to all the members of my team, but specifically with regards to this to Zoe and Dahadia, that really have been working really hard with helping me put together that of these reference guides that we're going to be discussing here over these next few minutes. And we also have some reference docs for you to take with you as well. So once again, with this, if you wouldn't mind scanning the QR code, what's going to happen is it's going to take you to a Google Doc workbook, and that will ask you to make a copy so that we can make this our own. What I'm going to quickly do is I'm going to leave this up for another 5-10 seconds, and then I'm going to actually go directly to that QR code. We'll get this ready, and hopefully everyone has gotten to that. And if, by the way, what I'll also do is in the chat, I will send this to everyone as well, just in case you're on a mobile device or you're having a hard time with the QR code. What happens is when you click that, it's going to ask you to make a copy. So it'll say copy of your 2024 plan workbook -SD marketing. And as you scroll down on this, and I'll make this just a little bigger, this is a 10-page doc. We're not going to go through all of it today. We're just going to go through a couple of pages, and we've got a number of other slides with curriculum for us to go through as well. But what I'd like for you to do is I'd like for you to go to page, I believe this is, yeah, page 3. And in your workbook, I'd like for you to, let's insert this data here. I'd like for you to showcase like, what is your current RMR? And I'm just going to put a fictitious RMR, and I'm going to say our RMR is 40,000. And I am going to reference the fact that we happen to bring on, let's say, and actually, by the way, is anyone brave enough to provide us with some of these data here? When I say brave enough, if anyone would like to volunteer to share some of their numbers, we can actually showcase this here. And I don't want to put anyone on the spot because I can go ahead and go through, we can put some fictitious numbers here. But if anyone is willing, you are welcome to, if you don't want to have your name, then just send it to host and panelist. And if you're okay with everyone knowing, then you can send it to everyone. And if that's okay, if we will move forward with me entering some of this information. But I will say, once again, if everyone wouldn't mind being interactive, that would be helpful for everyone here as well. So let's just say, for example, we're generating on a monthly basis 25 new customers per month. Let's just say, for example, we happen to, because most of us were talking about that are the fact that we work with both residential and commercial. So let's have like a blended average here as an example. And let's just say that our average client value, as an example, I'm just going to make this up, is $5,000. But I'd like, once again, for each of you to be entering this to your doc that you've made a copy of. And the other thing that I'd like for us to enter in is, what's our average lead conversion rate? So in terms of our average lead conversion rate, let's just say when a phone call comes in or when a form gets submitted, on the average, we're going to say 50% of them convert into a customer. And let's say in terms of our number of trucks, and I may butcher this, but let's just say we have 10 trucks presently, excuse me. Okay, so once again, I'll give you all just another 30 seconds sort of fill this out. And once again, keep in mind, this is going to be super helpful for you. I'm not going to go through all this, but I'll just show you really quickly. We've got a tremendous amount of information that's on here, and we have an even more comprehensive guide that we'll be showing you as well. So let's go back to here, and let's go actually back to the slides. So next thing here, and by the way, with this, the lead gen, when we get to the actual numbers. So what we'll do here actually is, on your workbook, you can use that QR code, but also as you go now to page 4 and you click on this, this will actually take you to that of this particular doc. So if you click on here, that's going to ask, it's going to take you here. And what you'll want to do is, let me actually, bear with me for just a moment. I'm just going to change this link really quickly. Perfect. Okay. So as you go here, it's going to once again ask you, just like the previous doc, to make a copy, and then that will take you to that of this particular page. So as we get to this, and I'll make this just a little bigger so it's easier to understand. If we take into consideration, once again, let's just say we'd reference the fact that our current RMR is at 40,000. So let's enter this information here. So our current is at 40,000. Let's say that our 2024 goal happens to be getting our RMR to 50,000. Let's say that we happen to have an attrition percentage of 7%, which means, across the year, we're going to attrit 2,800 in RMR, which means the incremental RMR that we need is going to be 12,800. And by the way, for this doc here, you're going to notice that some of these cells are in red and some of these are in white. The ones that are in red have a formula, so don't change that data. What you'll want to do is, let's say that we wanted to get to 60,000 in RMR. You're going to see that these numbers are going to all change in terms of how many new customers and things in that regard. We're going to keep it at 50 for now so that it's achievable. And let's just say, for example, our average RMR happens to be $60. Once again, we can change this. Let's say that we're only doing commercial. Let's say that our average RMR is $120. It's going to require less customers in order to get that. Let's say it happens to be less and it's $30. It's going to require more customers. Once again, let's say that we are, in terms of, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but let's say that our average conversion rate is 50%. This is the number of leads that we need in order to hit these actual targets. Let's say that we have a conversion rate of 80%. It's going to require less leads. Or let's say that our conversion rate is at 25%. It's going to need a lot more leads. So we'll keep it at 50% right now. I'd like for you over, whether it's now or in the near future, and as you're doing planning with that of your teams, take a look at these sheets. And this is something that will help you in terms of understanding where it is that you need to go and things in this regard. Pardon me, I'll go ahead and come back here. And in terms of now, as we shift into this next phase, let's talk about that of your actual marketing strategy. And in terms of that of your marketing strategy, we've got a three-pronged accelerated growth model that we that in terms of our last nearly 13 years of experience that we suggest and recommend. And number one is going to be on that of driving leads, also maximizing conversion, and ultimately optimizing results. We're going to go ahead and get into things. So in terms of driving leads, what we're talking about is how do we put ourselves in a position to actually drive leads to that of our sales or our sales and marketing funnel, so that we're able to communicate with that of these prospects and put ourselves in a position to generate new customers. And in terms of the organic SEO, I'm not going to go through this in great detail. I'm just going to quickly touch on this. But keep in mind, if you'd like to take a quick snapshot of this, if you didn't watch or attend our SEO masterclass, where we went really deep, and we actually had two masterclasses. One was on SEO and one was on your Google business profile, so that you're getting into the maps. We went really deep into this. We had separate two 1-hour sessions that went deep into this. So I'd like for you to go to our website and you can watch those on demand. But the long and the short here is we've got to be laser focused on that of the on-page elements. We've got to be focused on that of creating ongoing content as well as backlinks, and really laser focused on that of our Google business profile. There are a few bullets in terms of some of the specific things. This is not an exhaustive list, but this is more of that 80-20 in terms of the 80-20 rule of 20% are going to generate 80% of the actual activities or the results. The next thing I want to focus on, I'll spend a little more time on this, is both paid search. And when we say paid search, it's not just paid search, but it's also that of like paid advertising as well. So it's the organic as well as the paid. And specifically in terms of that of the paid ads, like your organic traffic is going to be that of the foundation. It's going to be the foundation in terms of building the brand and driving inbound leads, and specifically for that of the in-market prospects or in-market customers. So these are, once again, prospects that are actively looking for what you do. They may not necessarily know you by name. And then next in this, in this pyramid is going to be that of the paid search ads. So once again, focusing on that of in-market opportunities, we are, whether it's Google ads or that of the Bing ads, it's showing up at the top of the results so that we are putting ourselves in a position to dominate that SERP, or that search engine results page, not only within the ads, but also within the maps, as well as that of the organic results. And it's really, really important. We're going to talk a little bit more about this in just a moment, really briefly. But then we get to out of market, because remember, and we've talked about this before briefly, but in any given market, about 5% of your prospects are going to be actively, so 5% of your prospects or businesses or residential end users are actively searching for what you do. They may not necessarily know you by name, but then there's the 95%. So these are going to be the groups that don't necessarily know you. They're not actively searching for what you're doing. And the whole point here is we want to make sure we're putting ourselves in front of them so that they know, like, and trust us. And when they matriculate from out of market to in market, they're giving us a seat at the table. And when we give us a seat at the table, we like our chances. And some of the ad platforms for this is going to be LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. There are others, but these are going to be the lion's share of these. And keep in mind, it's important to make sure that we're not just broadcasting ourselves as that of a generalist, but it's all about being specialized in who it is that we are, positioning ourselves as the specialist and not doing that shotgun approach, but it's more that sniper-based approach. And I'll really quickly finish with this. But retargeting is really, really important, because keep in mind, a small percentage of your end user customers or prospects are going to actually pick up the phone or fill out a form or engage with you via chat or SMS and things in this regard out of the gate. And the key here is we want to cookie them. And I know that things are changing in this regard, but while things are still available, we want to make sure that we are following them and making sure that we're staying top of them. So let's wrap up really quickly here in terms of the driving leads with database. When we talk about database, and what we mean by this is sometimes, and in many cases, many times, your best prospect is your existing customer. So in terms of this, you want to make sure that you are communicating with your existing customers, because here's the thing. I was recently at a California, or actually this past week, at a California Alarm Association winter convention, and I was honored to share the stage with my good friend Audrey Pearson, and as we were honoring, our the great Harvey Eisenstadt at the Harvey Eisenstadt Sales Symposium. We were talking about how sales and marketing together, when done properly, can be more of a force multiplier. And one of the things that I've referenced is not just the fact that your best prospect's your existing customer, but I'd ask the question in the audience, and I asked, and I'm not going to ask here because I don't want to embarrass anyone, but one of the things that I'd asked is, how many of us have either come or gone from one of our customers, and as we're coming or going, we see one of our competitors coming or going. It's like, wait a minute. Hey, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, I thought we were friends and you liked us and you liked the great work that we did. We do that service. Like, what's going on? Well, it's like, well, wait a minute. I didn't know you did that service. And I'm sure, we're virtually discussing today, but I can probably see many of you shaking your head just like me right now. And the key here is to make sure that we're proactively communicating with that of our customers. We want to make sure that, now, by the way, I won't get too deep into this because I'll have a special announcement here at the end of our discussion. We're going to get really deep into what we're talking about right now. But the big key here is to segment your database, to have good, useful, helpful database so that we're able to send targeted messages even to your existing customers. But the other thing in terms of your database is you want to acquire database of prospects by vertical market, and especially those of us that are working with that of commercial or business end users, because we want to be proactively marketing to them via email, SMS, and other methods as well. Now, before we move on, I'd like for you to ponder for a few moments and think about, as we are looking to drive leads, and you're talking about the organic, we're talking about paid ads, paid search, and talking about marketing to your existing as well as acquiring databases, segmenting your current database, databases for prospects. I'd like for you to, in your notes, rate a green, yellow, or red. Like, you're doing very well with green, you're doing okay with yellow, or red, you have a lot of room for improvement. And once again, knowing that this is meant to be interactive, if anyone would like to in the chat reference, whether they think that any of these are green or yellow or red, that would be greatly appreciated, because we want to make sure that this is not just me speaking with everyone. Okay, and as we move on, let's now talk about, as we transition from that of driving leads, let's talk about how we maximize conversion. There's three big pillars within this section. And first things first is that of your website. And I want to really quickly talk about just 10 critical elements to help enhance conversion, because here's the thing. I realize that website is meant to help drive leads, but the key here is in all of our marketing. In all of our marketing, it's really important to ensure that we are putting ourselves in a position so that our customers come pre-positioned to buy. And I'll just really quickly, not ask more of a rhetorical question / quick point that I want to make here is have you ever had a prospect or a potential customer come to you and say, I don't know exactly, well, and maybe not necessarily in these words, but I don't know exactly how your program works. This is the challenge I have. I've been seeing you all over the place, and presuming we can make it work within budget, we're interested in moving forward. Let's talk about the details. And that's where I'm going with this. That's that tipping point. And this is where some of these key elements are really, really important, along with some of the other things that we've discussed, and what are some of the things I'll be discussing as well. So number one is, rather than trying to be the end all be all to everyone, you want to make sure that you're speaking directly to who your customer avatar, your customer persona is. We want to make sure that it's crystal clear, because remember, because of this device here, social media, the things that have happened over these last few years, our customers have the attention span that's less than that of a goldfish. And the key here is we need to make sure that they understand that we understand their business and what their challenges are, and the fact that we are able to help solve them. And the other thing is we want to make sure that we make it crystal clear as to like why us and why should they choose us. Number two is be real. Now, mind you, I feel like I'm preaching to myself right now. Many of the videos that I do, not just in today's webinar, but videos that I do, I'm doing them here in the comfort of my office, as opposed to me utilizing this camera here and doing video when I'm on the road and when I'm driving to the office. Well, not while I'm driving, when I'm parked, or just random videos. Like be real and use authentic things. So like on your website, on all of your, not just your website, but throughout all of your marketing, utilize that of the authentic images and not just that of things that you can get from like a Shutterstock or Getty or what have you, and things that you can get from your technology partners. And don't get me wrong, those things are really important, but make sure that we have pictures of that, of your vehicles. Make sure we have pictures of the leaders of your group, key members of your team, your technicians, members of your sales team, your administrative team, etc. And we want to make sure that it's on your website. We want to make sure that it's throughout your website. And remember, like raw is real. And we're going to talk about this next, which is video. And like with video, not only can you create video in your office, but also create video in the field. And speaking of that, like even before and after pictures with some of the things that you do. So, but like leverage video, because video, remember, like there's an old saying of a picture equals 1,000 words. And like, to me, a video is like 1,000 pictures, but it also demonstrates emotion and things in this regard. But we want to make sure that we have video throughout your website, because that is not something that's able to be duplicated. And that's something that really allows you to discuss your value prop and showcase how you're unique and different and the challenges that you can solve for that of your potential customers. We want to make sure that we're leveraging social proof. And here's where what I mean by that is like online reviews are really, really, really important. And I know that I'm stating here prominently on the homepage, but this needs to be throughout your website, because if it's good enough for that of your that of these other prospects or these other customers of yours, perhaps you're good enough for me as well. We want to make sure that we have these basics in order. We want to make sure that whether it's on the top right-hand side or top left-hand side, we want to make sure that we have your phone number prominently positioned across the entire website. We want to make sure that there are forms that are easy to fill out. We don't want them to be super long unless it's for an existing customer and it's helping to make sure for scheduling, that would be an exception to the rule. We want to make sure that we have some of the authority symbols. And I've referenced a few of these before, like in terms of like reviews, but we want to have examples or like many use cases or referencing some of the logos of some of the groups that you work with as well. We want to reference the technology partners you work with, the associations, BBB. I'd referenced a minute or two ago about the fact that we want to have that of before and after images. There are some of my good friends, Chad Cooper and Jason Wright, that they use the hashtag CCTV fail, and whereas they're not necessarily doing before and afters, like I know that between them and even Benji, I hate to even say this, although he references himself as such, but Benji the door dork, these are all good friends of mine. Like they reference a lot of these visual things, and like on our site, on our social media, we want to make sure that we're showing like before and afters and things in that regard. So we also want to make sure that we're engaging with SMS and with various cell phone in our marketing and utilizing that of marketing automation, which we're going to talk a little bit more about here in just a couple of minutes. I want to make sure that, and it goes without saying, but like it was interesting. A good friend of mine, we recently spoke at an event, and she was showcasing some of her data. And if my memory serves me correct, more than half of her company's traffic comes from a mobile device as opposed to a desktop. So we want to make sure that you're optimizing your website for mobile, and we want to make sure that whereas we talked about the fact that your phone number is going to be prominently positioned, we want to make sure that the code is activated. So when you click on the phone number, it'll actually dial, because believe it or not, that's going to make it easier for your customer to call you as opposed to having to manually type your phone number. These last couple of things, we want to make sure we're leveraging live chat, because remember, once again, we want to reduce the friction. We want to make sure that your customers are able to engage with you in the way that they want to, whether it's picking up the phone and giving you a call, filling out a form, engaging with live chat, etc. We want to, and by the way, we're not going to get into too much detail with this, but knowing that our customers and the way that they're experiencing things, like things have changed, and there are now options for you to allow them to not fill out a form so you call, but allow them to actually book an appointment for you to come see them and have all that information done online without them even having to engage with you. And the whole point here, speaking of reducing friction, this is one of the ways. And I'm not insinuating that all of your prospects are going to want to book without, but we want to, once again, reduce that friction. And this is, remember, I talked a few minutes ago about having that tipping point. As you get to the tipping point, whereas they know, like, and trust you, we're putting them in a position with, so that they may feel comfortable in being able to book an appointment with you without even engaging or interacting. And I'll finish with this. Site seed, really, it's really, really important. It matters, not just for search engines, but for that of your users as well. So, in terms of reputation, and I'll ask this rhetorically because I feel like I'm a little behind schedule here, but, like, keep in mind, in terms of your reputation, many of us may be getting a lot of our business or a lot of our leads from that of referrals. And what do, not necessarily all of us, but what do many of our prospects do is they go to Google and they do, let's just say, like, XYZ security company reviews or XYZ security company. And what's Google telling about them? So it's really, really important to ensure that your reputation is really is communicated online and things in this regard. So, like, for example, one of the ways, and we're not going to get too deep into this, but one of the ways that you can help to generate more reviews, these are business card sized handouts that your technicians can utilize. And these QR codes actually work. So, like, for example, if you take a look at Source2 Security or Fox Security, that will take you to their website, whereas you can click a thumbs up or a thumbs down. If you click the thumbs down, then you can fill out a form that states, this is some constructive feedback as to how you could have made things better during this installation process. But of course, 99.99% of our customers are going to say the sales and the installation process was great. And with our good friends at New Jersey Fire and Security Alarm Company, what we did was, this goes, and this QR code right here will take you directly to that of their Google business profile, so that you can quickly and easily leave a review. Because here's the thing, with automation, you can, and we can email all of our customers. There's things in the dispatching software that will encourage, when you click a button, if then it will send out an email to leave a review. But the reality is, we're all super busy. If the technician hands this card to the individual that they just installed that security system for, or fire and burglar alarm system, and they say, do you mind filling this out and leaving us a quick review while we're together? Chances are you're going to get a lot more reviews and a lot more quickly. And the whole point here is, when you leave that review, not only can you leave a review, but you can even do a selfie with that of the technician, or a picture of the installation of what was done and things in that regard. So keep in mind, like, it is so important to make sure that you're generating more reviews. This is one of the big ranking factors for SEO. I know we're not talking about that, but it's important for that. It's important for your customers and things in that regard. So I'll quickly talk about automation. And with automation, it is like it is all a matter of, how do we do more with less? Like, this is our worst enemy. And I know it may be hard to see me, but I'm pointing at my watch. It is like, time is our worst enemy. And how do we utilize automation and AI to help us do more with less? And I'll tell you really quick, like, I'm not going to name all these, but we take into consideration whether it's our website, email, various pay-per-click ads, SEO, social ads, or Google business profile. Like, there's all these opportunities for us to generate leads. But the key here is, like, the problem is, over 90%, and in some cases, it could be up to 99% of the traffic that comes to our website, they leave and they don't convert. But, like, why is that the case? And the reason being is because we have the attention span that's less than that of a goldfish. If a lead isn't followed up with in, as little as 10 to 15 minutes, they can go cold. And that's not a good thing. Keep in mind, the average customer has got to be followed up with a minimum of 5 times before booking or taking us, and mind you, for those of us that are following up right away within minutes, those numbers are going to come down. But like if you're not following up with them right away, it's going to require multiple touch points. And the key here is, once again, time is our worst enemy. And this is where leveraging automation, leveraging third-party tools and apps will help us. So, and keep in mind, not all of our customers, because remember, we serve different customers across different demographics, and we all go about doing things very differently. But some of our customers, they may prefer to interact with us via text message versus that of a phone call or email. Just take that into consideration. So, what's the solution to this? Is leverage your marketing automation and help so that we can help follow up, so that within seconds, within seconds, we're able to engage directly with them and things in that regard. And keep in mind, leveraging automation will help us so that we can engage with a prospect, so it's not having to be done manually multiple times, including that of SMS or text-based things as well. Because once again, time is that of our worst enemy. And I just really quickly, because I know I want to move on, want to make sure we've got a few other things we want to get to really quickly, is, ensure, think about, as you're reflecting and thinking about that of maximizing conversion, rate these things. Is your website, is it a green? Is it a yellow? Is it a red? Same thing with your reputation, same thing with automation. Is it non-existent? If it's non-existent, it's red. And these are things that you want to take into consideration, things that we need to be doing, because all these things together, as we go through this chart, are that of a force multiplier. So next, we're going to talk about that of total spend. How much money should we be spending for that of our marketing? What percentage? We're going to talk about that in just a moment. And I want to give a big thanks to that of our good friends at Resideo. So recently, I think I'd mentioned I was at a Resideo conference, and I had the honor to share the stage, by the way, with my good friend Lenny Guzman. Lenny, I believe, is here today. Yes, she is here today. And by the way, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. I'm not going to sing because then everyone's going to leave. But happy birthday. I hope you have a wonderful day. And for those of you that are watching this on demand, today's the 12th of December. So happy birthday, Lenny. And I'll continue moving on. So there's a recent survey talking about, what's your total marketing budget? And we had a few dozen groups that responded to this. And it's interesting, when we take into consideration, because I'd like for you to take into consideration, what is your current marketing budget on a monthly basis? And these were the choices, up to 500 to 2,000, 2,000 to 5,000, and then 5,000 plus. And here were the responses. So interesting, which is 1 in 20 has a budget of less than $500. About 1 in 5 are going to have between 500, or 2 in 5, I should say, are going to have a budget of between 500 to 5,000. But over half, so 3 out of 5 respondents have a marketing budget of over $5,000 plus. So interesting. I'd like for you to, if you haven't taken a quick screen grab or screenshot of that or picture, take a quick screenshot, because I'm going to move this now. So we're going to go back to our worksheet here in just a moment. But we get asked all the time, in the security industry, what percentage of our overall revenue should we be allocating towards marketing? And I know these are big ranges, but what I will say is, at the very minimum, we need to be spending at least a couple, 2 or 3% in marketing. Because keep in mind, we have attrition, and we have our competitors that are trying to take our customers. If we're looking at moderate growth, it's going to be, once again, in the 4% range. And also, if we're really looking to have more of an accelerated growth, we should be looking at 11+%. And before I go back to the worksheet really quickly, I'm going to zip through this because I think we're running a little behind schedule here. Is keep in mind some of the other factors to take into consideration is, are you like a multi-generational business? What is your RMR? Are you a newer business? Do you work with residential end users? Do you work with commercial? Do you have more integration-based revenue versus that of RMR? These are all factors to take into consideration when it comes to what's your actual revenue percentage. So I want to go back to this. And in terms of getting to this, so I'm going to re-enter in the chat just in case somebody's joined us a little late. If you go here, that will take you to this workbook here. And as you scroll down to page 4, there is a link that will take you to this, make a copy, and ultimately that will get you to this. So that'll take you once again to here. So in terms of the budget allocations, we using, and once again, as a reminder, the cells that are in white background, these are ones that you can edit, but the ones in red, do not edit those because those are going to have that of actual formulas in here. So as you take into consideration that of the budget allocation, I'll just point out a couple of things here. So if we are looking, let's just say, for example, we have a annual projected revenue of, and when I say annual, this is actually should be annual projected RMR. If that's what our goal is to be at 50,000, and let's just say we want to, because we want to aggressively grow towards that, let's just say that we're using 12%, then what we're saying is, our monthly budget should be 6,000, or our annual budget. And sorry, I think this is what happens when you're doing this a little late at night. Your total annual budget is $72,000. And these are just some examples of, once again, percentages of the overall percentage, what would be allocated towards online marketing, offline marketing, and like repeat business. And as we were to change this to, let's just say that we want to have, I'm just going to make this up. Let's just say 5%. And we wanted to have this at 25%, then we're now at 100%. Yes, we are. You'll see here that all of these things are automatically updated in terms of things to take into consideration. So once again, I'm going to quickly go through this because we have just a couple of other slides to go through as well. But the whole point here is, as you make updates in your copy of this, this will automatically update all these things in terms of, how much money should you be allocating towards SEO, towards your paid ads, towards that of display and retargeting. And when we talk about offline marketing, and when we talk about overall marketing budgets, one quick thing to take into consideration is like your vehicles, trade shows, business cards, like they're all these things. It's not, don't get me wrong, like obviously pay-per-click advertising, SEO, all these things are super, super important, but all the basics and fundamentals are really, really important as well. So, so I'm gonna quickly go back. I'm gonna quickly go back here, and let's talk about your average cost per lead. So, in terms of your average cost per lead, going back to this here, so there's 3 tabs on this sheet. Keep in mind, you are able to make edits to this. But let's just say, for example, like your ads and your, let's just say, like, for example, on the residential front, as you're measuring things, if your average cost per lead is going to be that of $150, but let's just say for your repeater, your referrals, you provide like a $50 discount or whatever the case may be. If you enter these things in, it'll tell you what your blended average in terms of your cost per lead, and then you multiply that by that of the number of leads you need in order to get to a customer that will share all of these things. The other thing to take into consideration, because once again, I know we're pressed for time here, is as you enter in for you, what is your lifetime value for a residential end user or a commercial end user, or if you happen to be a vendor and your dealers and integrators, your customers, you can enter these things in here. And as you enter these things in here, you'll want to enter this information into this section here in terms of what your goals are, as well as the number of new customers and things in that regard. Because once again, as you take into consideration these 3 tabs, it will showcase for you how many new customers do you need in order to hit all these other good things. So I'm going to come back to here really quickly. And in terms of your ROI, and I have just a couple of other quick things that we want to get to because I want to be respectful of everyone's time. But in terms of optimizing your results, you've got to make sure you're measuring things. And this is where it is so important to ensure that you've got proper tracking, you're analyzing these, at the worst case scenario, even if it's like quarterly, just reviewing through things and seeing as to what are you generating as a result of all the efforts that you're doing and things in that regard. I'll share with you this, John Wanamaker, who's known as like the godfather of advertising from the late 1800s, early 1900s. He was one of the first individuals to advertise in the actual newspaper. He's quoted as saying like half of your advertising spend, half of his advertising spend's wasted. The problem is he doesn't know what half. And like in today's day and age, that is no longer the case. So, as we're taking into consideration, reflecting on these things, keep in mind that when you take into consideration like what your budget is, your average cost per leader, your ROI in terms of optimizing results, like once again, score yourself here and see as to what, once again, what makes sense here in terms of these particular things. Where do you need to focus your efforts on and things in that regard? What I really quickly will state is if you would like to schedule a marketing strategy session with us, go through this QR code and we will walk you through that of your marketing and see as to identifying some opportunities for improvement with that of your marketing. And if it makes sense for us to work together and we have availability in your area, or if you happen to be on the vendor side, we'd love to discuss that stuff with you as well. But this QR code will take you to a page so you can fill out a form and we can schedule a time to get together. So in terms of like, planning, and as we're closing things out here, in terms of like planning your focus for 2024, remember, it's all about that of a plan. We've got to make sure that we're not going, with blinders and things in this regard. And we've got to ensure that we have your specific plan for that of 2024 and using these things here as we go into whether it's the driving leads or that of maximizing conversion or optimizing results. Where do you need to focus your efforts? Remember, Rome was not built in one day, and we've got to ensure that we are focusing on just a few things so that we are really making that positive difference so that we, once again, we have that wind for our sails so that we can get to where we're looking to go in terms of our goals and objectives a lot more quickly and really achieve those goals. So I'm going to finish with this. Actually, two last quick slides, and then we're going to wrap things up. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to enter them into the chat or the Q&A, and we can discuss that. I know we've got a lot of great things that we all have to do in terms of wrapping things up here for that of 2023. So we've put together, I believe this is like a 15 page marketing plan workbook that's a lot more extensive than what we just went through. And this is a PDF. So if you were to use this QR code, that will take you to that of this actual, and by the way, you don't have to enter your information in order to get to this. So this will be it's an 18-page workbook that's an extension of today's discussion. So I know we're not going to be able to get through everything in great detail today. So there's, as I mentioned, 18 pages of information that will be super, super helpful. And these are things that, whether you are doing your marketing in-house or whether you're working with a third party, these are the things that you can bring to your particular group, and they can help you with this. The one thing that I just want to quickly end with is I want to announce that of our next webinar, where we're going to do a masterclass on that of email marketing. And knowing that we're all super busy, let's mark this date in our calendar. And there's nothing better than right now today to schedule to get this into your schedule. So if you utilize this QR code, it will take you to the registration page. And during this email marketing masterclass, we're going to do a big deep dive into starting with the end in mind in terms of segmenting. What are some of the best practices for subject lines? What's the content that we should be using? Why is it important to be segmenting our database and sending out multiple emails? So it's almost, once again, as if we are doing like a sniper as opposed to that of a shotgun approach. The difference in marketing to prospects versus your existing customers. What are some of the best practices of things that we should be? What are some of the best practices with types of content for that of our customers and things in that regard? So, I very, very thankful, very, very appreciative for everyone's time. I will stop the shared screen now, but if anybody has any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, we can go ahead and get things wrapped up. I'm very, very appreciative for everyone's time. And if anyone doesn't have any questions, we will get everyone on their merry way. Thank you very much for everyone that participated, and we will see you on our next webinar, if not at an upcoming event.